everybody. Today we are in the Avenues stand at the World Poultry Congress in Paris. I'm Camille Alfaro. I'm from the editorial staff of the magazine. I'm here with Dr. Martin Zuidhof. He is a professor from the University of Alberta in Canada. His lab research is about the precision feeding, broiler breeders and layer management, optimizing pullet body weight and composition for lifetime reproductive efficiency, dietary energy partitioning to maintenance, growth and reproduction, and broiler breeder growth and development. Welcome, Dr. Zuidhof, and thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you. This interview will be about the use and effects of the precision feeding in broiler breeders. Therefore, my first question is, could you please indicate what precision feeding is?
Yeah, precision feeding is about providing the right amount of the right feed to the right bird at the right time. It's a subset of precision livestock farming, which is about using sensors to collect data and then act on that data to implement optimal decisions in real time. And precision feeding is doing that with a feeding system.
And what are the technologies or the equipment used for that?
Well, I'll talk about, there are different technologies out there. My technology involves a feeding station that it actually has two stages. The birds enter, they stand on a body weight scale, their RFID is red, so they're identified as individuals. And after we weigh them, we compare their body weight with the weight that they should be. And if they don't weigh enough, we allow them access to some feed and then eject the bird gently from the station. If the bird weighs enough, it doesn't need any more feed right now, so we just let it, we don't let it, we push it out of the station because they don't want to leave, right? They know that, we can get feed there, and broiler breeders are quite feed restricted. So at any rate, the birds are ejected from the station after they eat if they need a meal.
And Dr. Zuidhof, it is expensive to implement this type of system into a commercial production. If so, could you give us an estimation of the price or something like that?
Yeah, there is no commercial version of the product right now. It is very expensive. My initial prototypes were, they would break the bank of any commercial producer. But I am working with an engineering team to develop a station that's got a smaller footprint, that's more reliable, easier to maintain and service, and handles what the birds need better. So we're aiming to get a target price, a retail price of about $5,000. So we need to show, if that's to be used in a commercial situation, you need quite a boost in productivity to be able to afford that station. So we think that there are some scenarios where that makes sense, particularly as you go up the breeding pyramid toward grandparents or great-grandparents, but also feeding males to keep the males at the right body weight so we can eliminate spiking programs. And keep the males at the right body weight so that they successfully complete matings. We've done the math, and we think that we can make a station that's commercially relevant.
And what are the negative effects of this system?
The negative, some of the challenges with the system, in our early prototypes, we didn't know how many duty cycles that the system would have, so they're fairly high maintenance at this point, which is one of the reasons why we want to develop a commercial system that runs for a lot longer before you need to replace parts. One of the challenges is getting birds trained, and I think a big challenge is just in the thinking that you need to have. It's such a radical paradigm shift for producers. You really have to think through the system, and I caught myself several times just sort of thinking in the old way. You really have to think in a new way, because we're not feeding a whole flock all at the same time. We're feeding one bird in a sequential manner throughout the day, and there are just so many things that you have to retrain your brain to think differently.
In your experience, could you please tell us about the research that you are conducting about this topic on broiler breeders?
Well, the research has been eye-opening. The results have been exciting and surprising.
Yes.
The amount of information that we get on every individual bird, it's exciting. We know exactly how many times birds try to enter the feeding station. We have some birds that eat or that try to eat 20 times a day. We have some that go into the station 200 times or more, looking for food because they're hungry. And we reject them 90% of the time. So learning about individuals and each bird has its own personality. In fact, we've had nicknames for some of our birds because they are just so unique. We have found, one of the really surprising things that we found was that when we fed multiple meals a day, birds were much leaner than when we just feed one meal a day or one meal every second day. And that had some very important implications for especially birds coming into lay. So we have consistently a 1% coefficient of variation in body weight at photostimulation age. But what we learned was that uniform body weight does not necessarily mean uniform physiological readiness to start laying. So there's been a big learning curve, but we've learned so much about the biology of the birds just by using this different system.
And did you have any effects in the hen house reproduction or chicken quality?
Yeah, initially, because of the more lean bird, the birds didn't come into production as well as the conventionally fed birds. At the onset of lay, in a conventional flock, you increase the feed allocation once you start seeing eggs, and every bird gets that feed allocation increase. Our birds only get that bonus after they've laid an egg. They lay an egg, they lose 50 grams. That means that there's 50 grams more that they can eat. So you have to get them into production before you can reward them and feed them for egg production. And commercially, we would like to feed birds without having to have an RFID tag on every bird because the tag is expensive, and what do you do at the end of the flock? You have to retrieve all those tags. It's just, logistically, it's very difficult. So we're trying to develop a system where we can just use something that we can measure, which is body weight, to feed, to make a feeding decision. And now we're doing a lot of work with body weights, trying to find an optimal body weight curve that actually works really well for precision-fed broiler breeders.
And talking about behavior, do the systems improve the pecking?
The behavior, we've done some behavior work. It's hard to do because the systems are so different. With a conventional flock, you have a lot of aggression around the time of feeding. With a precision-fed flock, we see a little bit more aggression in the pens when the birds are not feeding because they're trying to get into the feeding station and they jostle a little bit. But overall, we find that the birds are very gentle. The interactions that they have are not severe aggressive actions towards each other. And the system is actually kind of an environmental enrichment for the birds. They can forage throughout the day, and I think that they're getting a feed reward occasionally throughout the day and having something to do, looking for feed and actually getting a reward. That's overall good for the well-being of the birds.
Finally, Dr. Martin, what is coming in the research about a precision feeding system?
Well, oh boy, there's so much that I want to do and so little time. We are currently working on 26 different body weight trajectories in a couple of big trials. We want to get to feeding the right feed to the right bird. So I've been talking to feeding companies and breeding companies about feeding specific diets to specific birds at specific times to meet the nutrient requirements that these different birds need to optimize their productivity. There's a lot of work that can be done with layers as well, and even broilers. It's a great research tool. I think with a tool like this, we can really establish some of the requirements and the responses to different nutrients that we provide in precision feeding applications that go beyond broiler breeders. So there's a lot of opportunity. I think it's the future, and we just need more data and a better system than our prototype.
Well, Dr. Zuidhof, thank you. Thank you for being here, for your time, and thank you to all the people that is watching this interview.
Thank you.